Hey everybody, ready for a deep dive. Today it's all about Egypt, a place that I know a lot of may have been fascinated by. You always hear about, like what it's really like to travel there, beyond the brochures and the ancient wonders.
Hmm.
And well, luckily we have a bunch of YouTube vloggers who just got back from Egypt and they are ready to spill the tea.
What's so interesting about these firsthand accounts is they give us a side of Egypt that often gets missed in the typical, travel magazine.
Right. Everyone dreams of seeing the pyramids, but like, what about just day-to-day life there? What's it like? Are those travel warnings actually justified? Is it
Mm.
safe? And I mean, ultimately, is it even worth it? We're going to find out today because these vloggers experience some pretty crazy stuff like intense security, aggressive scammers, even a run-in with the police over a completely harmless gadget.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. And get this, a drone disappearing into thin air.
wow. That's pretty wild. Okay, well, let's start with the security then. A lot of these bloggers described, a ton of security measures pretty much everywhere. They talked about airport screenings, hotel checkpoints, bag searches, checkpoints throughout the country.
So basically, it sounds like a spy movie, not a relaxing vacation.
Yeah, when you think about it, the country's still dealing with the effects of back-to-back revolutions, so there's this like underlying tension that just permeates everything. And that seems to be like the root of all these, extreme security measures.
That makes sense, but to the point of like walkie-talkies being a threat.
Hmm.
Sunny, the food blogger, he's known for his like adventurous palate and those global food tours.
Oh yeah, I've seen his stuff.
He actually had a really jarring experience with that. He brought walkie-talkies for his film crew, which is, pretty standard for his work, but he ended up being treated like a security threat. Hotel staff panicked. The police even got involved. It was a whole ordeal.
Oh wow. Yeah, it really shows you how different cultures can clash. I mean, something that's completely commonplace here can be seen as suspicious in another country, especially one with, a history of political unrest.
Right.
They probably just want to be extra cautious, even if it means, inconveniencing tourists.
Speaking of inconvenience, let's talk about filming restrictions. Several of the vloggers said they had some pushback when they tried to film their experiences, like confiscated equipment, pressure to delete footage, permits that seemed completely useless. Did any of them find ways around that?
It's a good question. It actually raises an important point about freedom of speech in Egypt. You see, what these YouTubers experienced is actually part of a bigger trend of censorship in the country.
Hmm.
The government's been cracking down on, freedom of the press, and that includes what tourists can film and share online. There are actually specific laws that say what you can film and where you can film it. And permits are often required even for like harmless stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always the authorities either. Some of them mentioned pushback from like locals, guards at the historical sites who just didn't want to be on camera, like they were trying to control the narrative, present a certain image of Egypt to the world.
Right.
But Sonny, being Sonny, he found a pretty clever way to get around it. He pretended to delete footage from his phone, but he was actually recording everything on a dummy device.
Oh, wow. That's smart.
Talk about thinking on your feet.
It makes you wonder how much we're not seeing or hearing about just because of these restrictions.
It's fascinating and a little bit unnerving, right? You go in expecting to, capture the beauty of these ancient wonders, and suddenly you're dealing with security checkpoints and censorship. Not exactly the relaxing getaway you might picture.
No, definitely not. But let's switch gears for a second, talk about something that plagues pretty much any tourist destination scams.
Oh, yeah.
From what I heard, Egypt takes it to a whole new level.
Oh, yeah. And we're not talking about like simple pickpocketing tricks either. We're talking elaborate scams. The bloggers described all kinds of scams, like the picture scam, where someone pretends to drop your camera after you ask for a photo.
Oh yeah, class.
Then there's the bird poop scam, where they splatter you with something that looks like, bird droppings. And while someone's helping, you clean up their accomplice pickpockets.
Wow.
It's crazy. And then there's the guessing game scam described in The Dark Side of Egypt. That's a YouTube channel known for its kind of like raw, unfiltered look at travel destinations.
Okay.
This one involves like a whole setup, multiple people working together to distract and come unsuspecting tourists.
It's almost like performance art, the way they play on tourists' unfamiliarity with the local culture.
Right. And they're so organized, they prey on people who are distracted and maybe a little too trusting.
Absolutely. But, it makes you wonder if there's more to it than that.
Like what?
Well, the Dark Side of Egypt videos also mentioned, the country's economic struggles, like the food crisis, water scarcity, the overall sense of hardship. Could that be playing a role in why these scams are so common?
That's a good point. I mean, when people is just trying to survive, they might resort to desperate measures.
Exactly.
And it seems like that desperation can manifest in other ways, too. One vlogger, Tayo Aina, he's known for his travel content that focuses on Africa. He actually described the beggars in Egypt as being extremely aggressive. He even mentioned being touched and grabbed at,
Oh, wow.
which can be really unsettling, for any traveler.
Yeah, for sure. It's likely another symptom of that desperation we were talking about. People are hungry, they're struggling, and they see tourists as a potential source of income, even if it means resorting to uncomfortable tactics.
It makes you think about the ethics of tourism. Are we as travelers somehow contributing to this problem? It's a tough question. On the one hand, we want to experience different cultures and support local economies. But on the other hand, are we inadvertently perpetuating a system that exploits vulnerability?
It's a really difficult balance to strike. Tourism can be a force for good, but it's so important to be aware of the potential downsides.
With all this talk about scams and aggression, it makes me wonder, do people even get to enjoy the pyramids? Like the main attraction, the reason everyone goes to Egypt in the first place?
Oh, they definitely do. And from what these vloggers said, they are just as awe-inspiring in person as you'd expect.
The vlogger from the dark side of Egypt, nobody talks about.
That's
He
so.
had actually specializes in like the lesser known parts of Egypt. He said the pyramids were far more impressive in person than he ever imagined. He even rode a camel to get a better view.
Wow. It really speaks to the sheer scale and grandeur of those ancient structures. Standing before the pyramids, you really grasp the magnitude of human effort that went into creating them.
It's incredible to think about, right? But the vlogs also showed us some of the darker sides of ancient Egypt practices that just wouldn't fly today.
Right, the dark side of Egypt pointed out some of those practices. One that stood out was the whole harem system. Pharaohs having hundreds of wives and concubines. It was common back then, but it's definitely eyebrow-raising from a modern perspective.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's the treatment of the workers who actually built these monumental structures. The mood side vlogger, he's all about the historical and cultural context of different destinations. He talked about how these workers often died young from injuries and exhaustion.
It's a good reminder that even the most impressive civilizations have a dark side, a history full of, exploitation and suffering. It makes you look past that romanticized version of history and acknowledge the full story, the good and the bad.
That's a great point. And it actually leads us to another interesting thing, the different perspectives on the Egyptian people themselves.
Yeah, that was really fascinating. Some vloggers described the locals as being incredibly friendly and welcoming, while others experienced hostility, harassment, even threats.
Like the vlogger from the dark side of Egypt nobody talks about? No, he mostly had positive encounters. He talked about how warm and generous the shop owner was in the Khan El Kaili market. It's this huge bazaar full of spices and textiles and souvenirs. And Sunny from More Best Ever Food Review Show, he raved about working with this local tour guide named Joe.
Huh.
But then you have vloggers like the one from Boundaries Unlimited. He focuses on solo female travel. He said he felt constantly harassed and targeted by scams.
Wow. It just goes to show that you can't generalize about an entire population. Everyone's experience is different.
So what does all of this tell us about Egypt as a travel destination?
I think it paints a picture of a place that's both incredibly alluring and undeniably challenging. A place overflowing with history and culture, but also full of potential pitfalls for, the unprepared traveler.
Sounds like you need to be ready for anything and everything. It's definitely not your typical beach vacation.
No, not at all. But it also seems like Egypt offers a really unique travel experience, especially for people who are truly interested in history, open to cultural immersion, and comfortable with a bit of controlled chaos.
So it all comes down to personal preference and a realistic understanding of what to expect. But after hearing all of this, would you personally visit Egypt?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's one we're going to explore more in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, so we're back and still trying to figure out, is Egypt worth the trip?
Right. After hearing about all the challenges and the security and those scams, the big question is, do these vloggers actually recommend going?
Yeah, and it seems like we got a pretty mixed bag of opinions, which honestly kind of reflects Egypt itself, right?
Yeah, you're right. The experiences were all over the place, some super positive, others totally negative, and a lot kind of in between.
Well, let's start with maybe the most extreme reaction. Sunny from More Best Ever Food Review Show, the guy with the walkie-talkie situation, he didn't hold back at all. He basically told his viewers, don't go to Egypt.
Yeah, I mean, after everything he went through, I can see why he'd feel that way. He went in with a permit, expecting things to, go smoothly. And instead, he just hit roadblocks, censorship, what he saw as extortion.
Yeah. And it wasn't just the authorities either. He felt like the local people were, and I quote, actively awful. He actually said that the country doesn't deserve tourist dollars until they learn to treat visitors with respect.
Wow, that's a strong statement. It definitely represents that negative end of the spectrum.
But then we have Tayo Aina from the dark side of Egypt nobody talks about,
Yeah.
Shisukia. His perspective was a lot more nuanced. He acknowledged the challenges, the scams, the aggressive begging, the filming restrictions, but he also talked about the positive interactions he had and that amazing experience of, visiting the pyramids and those other historical sites.
Tayo's take is really interesting because he seems to be focusing on the potential for Egypt to improve its tourism and how it treats visitors. He sees the possibility for a better experience, but also stays realistic about the current situation.
So not a complete no-go, but more like a call for change.
Exactly. And that seemed to be the common thread in a lot of these vlogs. Even the ones who had bad experiences weren't necessarily saying, never go to Egypt. It was more, go with caution, be prepared, know what you're getting into.
Yeah, the vlogger from Boundaries Unlimited, remember he focuses on solo female travel. He talked about feeling constantly harassed and on edge, but he also admitted that he was kind of prepared for those challenges based on his research before the trip.
That brings up a really important point for anyone thinking about going to Egypt. Do your homework. Don't just look at those fancy brochures. Read travel blogs, watch these vlogs, talk to people who've actually been there. Get a real understanding of the risks and the challenges before you book your flight.
It sounds like going in blind expecting a typical tourist experience could lead to some serious disappointment.
Absolutely, Egypt is not Disneyland. It's not some sanitized, predictable travel destination. It's a country with a rich and complex history, a vibrant culture, and yeah, a lot of internal struggles. It's not for the faint of heart or for someone who wants everything to be perfect.
So where does that leave us? Should our listener pack their bags or look for adventure somewhere else?
And that's where it gets interesting because there's no easy answer. It really depends on the traveler, their tolerance for risk, their travel style, what they're hoping to get out of the experience.
Okay, so let's break it down. What kind of traveler would actually enjoy a place like Egypt? And who should maybe go somewhere else?
I'd say someone who loves cultural immersion, who's fascinated by history, who enjoys a bit of a challenge, and who can roll with the punches. That's the kind of person who might actually find Egypt really rewarding.
They'd also have to be pretty independent and resourceful, right? Not the type who needs everything planned out for them or expects five-star treatment everywhere they go.
Exactly. Flexibility and adaptability are key. You got to be okay with things not always going according to plan.
Okay, so on the flip side, who should probably avoid Egypt?
Well, if you're easily stressed by crowds, noise, hassle, if you're not comfortable with tight security, if you really value personal space and privacy, or if you're just looking for a relaxing, predictable vacation where everything runs smoothly, yeah, Egypt is probably not the best choice.
Right, but there are so many other amazing destinations out there that offer those things. It's all about finding the right fit.
You got it. And that's why these deep dives are so valuable. They give you those nuanced firsthand insights that help you make informed decisions about where to travel and what to expect.
So basically, it's less about the destination itself and more about matching your expectations and your travel style to the reality of the place.
That's it.
Okay, deep divers. That's it for part 2. I've heard about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now in part 3, we'll tackle that final question, the one you've probably been thinking about this whole time. Okay, so here we are, the final part of our Egyptian adventure. We heard it all. The security, the scams, the pyramids, the good, the bad, the ugly. But now it comes down to, the question you've probably been asking yourself this whole time.
Yeah, I think after all this, it really is a personal decision.
Right. Knowing everything we've learned from these vloggers, would you actually travel to Egypt?
It's tough, isn't it? Would you be willing to deal with the hassle and the risks just to see those ancient wonders? Could you handle the culture shock, the security checkpoints, the constant threat of being scammed, and still, come out of it with your sanity?
And maybe even more important, how would you approach the whole experience?
Would you go in with an open mind, a sense of adventure, ready to embrace the unexpected, even if it means getting out of your comfort zone?
Or would you be that person who's constantly comparing it to other places, judging everything based on your own culture, and ultimately missing out on what makes Egypt unique?
It's like these vlogs accidentally revealed something deeper, right? It wasn't just about the pyramids or the scams.
Yeah,
These trips kind of became a reflection of the travelers themselves.
I see what you mean.
Egypt, with all its, complexities and contradictions, it was like a mirror reflecting their own biases, assumptions, expectations.
Wow.
It forced them to confront not just the realities of a different country, but also their own reactions to those realities.
That's what's so powerful about travel, though, isn't it? It pushes us, challenges us, helps us grow.
And that's the beauty of these deep dives. We're not here to give you all the answers or tell you what to think. We just want to spark your curiosity, get you thinking, and help you make your own decisions.
So as we wrap up our Egyptian adventure, we want to leave you with this. The decision to travel anywhere, especially a place as complex as Egypt, is totally up to you. There's no right or wrong answer.
It's about knowing what to expect, being prepared, and being open to, the possibility of a truly transformative experience.
And hey, maybe this deep dive has inspired you to learn more, to explore Egypt for yourself.
And if you do decide to go, remember to pack your sense of adventure, your patience, and maybe even a dummy phone.
Just in case. Safe travels, everyone. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.